My girlfriend told me, "You're too loyal, too available, and too easy to predict for me to stay interested." I smiled, wished her luck, and left quietly. 11 months later, she posted emotional videos about missing genuine love while watching my engagement announcement go viral across social media platforms. "You're too loyal, too available, and honestly, too easy to predict for me to stay interested." She said it the way someone reads a weather forecast. Flat, certain, already moving on. I remember the way she was looking at her nails when she said it. Not at me, at her nails. Like the conversation barely deserved eye contact. I stood there in our kitchen, in the apartment we shared on the Upper West Side, holding 2 cups of coffee I'd just made for us. One for her, one for me, like I did every Sunday morning. And suddenly I understood. That was the problem. The coffee, the consistency, the fact that she could predict I'd be standing there with 2 cups at 9 a.m. every single Sunday. I set both cups on the counter. I didn't say anything for a long moment. Then I smiled, not because it was funny, but because there was nothing else to do. And I said, "I hope you find what you're looking for, Kendra." She looked up from her nails finally. I think she expected more. An argument. Tears. Begging. She got none of it. I turned around, walked into the bedroom, and started making a mental list of what was mine. I didn't realize it then, but that moment changed everything. Looking back, I should have noticed what happened at dinner 3 weeks before that conversation. We were at a restaurant in Midtown. Her choice, always her choice, and somewhere between the appetizers and the main course, she stopped responding to what I was saying mid-sentence. Not rudely, almost worse than rude. She just drifted. Her eyes went to a table across the room. 2 men in their late 30s. Suits that cost more than a month of my rent. Laughing loud. Ordering expensive wine without looking at the price list. I watched her watch them for about 4 seconds. Then I said her name. She snapped back. Smiled at me. "Sorry, what were you saying?" I told her. She nodded, but she didn't really hear it. I told myself she was just distracted. Long week. Stress from work. That was the first lie I caught myself believing. Not the last. If you enjoy real stories like this, subscribe, because what happened next changed everything for me. I was 29. She was 27. We'd been together almost 4 years. Living together in Manhattan for the last 2. That's all you need to know. Her name was Kendra. She worked in brand marketing for a mid-sized fashion company. Her whole career was built around image, what things looked like, how things were positioned, what perception could be shaped into something more valuable than reality. Looking back, I think she applied that same logic to her personal life. I was a UX designer at a growing tech startup. We weren't going public yet, but things were moving. We had a Series B in the works. I was leading a product team. My name was showing up in internal conversations about a VP role. None of that was loud. None of it was flashy. It was just work. Progress. Quiet momentum. Kendra's world ran on visible momentum. Instagram aesthetics. Industry events. Being seen in the right rooms with the right people. Mine didn't. And for a while, for almost 4 years, I thought we balanced each other out. I was wrong. The signs were there months before that Sunday morning. Small ones. The kind you explain away in real time because you love someone and you want it to work. She started following a lot of new accounts. Finance guys. Startup founders. Men with verified profiles and highlight reels that looked like a GQ shoot. I noticed. I didn't say anything. She started coming home late more often. Not dramatically late. Just late enough that dinner would be cold. Late enough that when I asked about her day, the answer was shorter than it used to be. Just a work thing. You wouldn't know anyone there. I nodded. I kept cooking the dinners. My best friend, Marcus, was the one who finally said something. We were at a bar in Brooklyn one Saturday afternoon, watching basketball, and he put his beer down and looked at me directly. "Bro, what's actually going on with you and Kendra?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, she barely looked at you at Jalen's birthday thing last weekend. And when you went to the bathroom, she spent the whole 10 minutes talking to that dude in the blazer like you didn't exist." I remembered the moment he was describing. I told myself the same thing. Work thing. She knows him professionally. She's just social, I said. Marcus gave me the look. The one he'd been giving me since we were 19. She's not just social, man. She's window shopping. And you're acting like you can't see it because you don't want to. I picked up my beer. I see it, I said. And that was the truth. I saw all of it. I just didn't know what to do with what I saw. The phone thing started maybe 2 months before the end. Not hiding it dramatically. Nothing obvious. Just a slight angle shift when I walked past. A quicker screen off than before. Moving it face down on the table when it used to sit face up. One night, I walked into the living room and she was typing something, and the moment she registered my footsteps, the phone went to her chest. She looked up. Hey. Hey, I said. I sat down next to her on the couch. Neither of us said anything for a second. Who are you texting? I asked. Calm. No accusation in my voice. Danielle, she said. Danielle was her coworker. The one who'd recently started dating a guy who worked in private equity. The one who posted every weekend in the Hamptons like it was a job requirement. I said, tell her I said hi. Kendra smiled. Put the phone down. But the screen stayed face down. The comparison comments came gradually. Small ones. Presented as observations, not attacks. The way you can say something cruel and leave yourself an exit if the other person reacts. Danielle's boyfriend just put a down payment on a place in Tribeca. At 31. Can you imagine? Marcus's cousin started a company and sold it in 3 years. Crazy what some people do with the same amount of time. I was reading about this designer who took a pivot into tech. Now he's worth like 20 million. It's wild. None of them were directed at me. None of them had my name attached. But she always said them while looking at me. Like she was waiting to see if I'd flinch. I never did. Which, I think, frustrated her more than anything. There was one night, maybe 3 weeks before the end, where it almost came out directly. We were lying in bed. Lights off. Both of us half awake in that way where it feels safe to say things you'd normally hold back. She said, do you ever feel like we're just comfortable? I said, is that a bad thing? She was quiet for a moment. Too quiet. Then, I don't know. Sometimes comfortable feels like settling. I stared at the ceiling. Do you feel like you're settling? I asked. I didn't say that. You kind of did. More silence. I just wonder sometimes if I want more, she said. More energy. More. I don't know. Electricity. Electricity, I repeated. Yeah. I turned to look at her in the dark. We used to have that, I said. In the beginning. I know, she said. But beginnings always feel like that. And then she rolled over. I lay there for a long time after that. Not angry. Not panicking. Just very, very awake. The final conversation wasn't dramatic. That's the thing nobody tells you about endings. The real ones don't come with a score. No raised voices. No thrown objects. Just two people standing in a kitchen on a Sunday morning, and one of them saying what they'd been rehearsing for months. You're too loyal, too available, and honestly, too easy to predict for me to stay interested. She followed it up. Like she needed me to understand. I love you. I do. But I've been feeling disconnected for a while, and I think it's because I need someone who challenges me more. Someone with more ambition. More presence. More presence. I thought about the dinners I'd cooked. The trips I'd planned. The 9 a.m. coffees, 3 years running. I thought about sitting with her in the hospital when her dad had that scare last fall. Holding her hand in the waiting room for 6 hours without saying anything because she didn't need words. She needed stillness. That was presence. She just didn't want that kind. Who is he? I asked. She blinked. What? The guy with more presence. Who is he? A pause. Just long enough. This isn't about anyone else, she said. I picked up my coffee cup. Took a sip. Okay, I said. You're not even going to fight for this? She asked. And there was something in her voice, something almost offended, like my calmness was the final disrespect. I looked at her. Would it change anything? She didn't answer. Then no, I said. I'm not going to fight for something that's already been decided. I put the mug down, walked into the bedroom, and started packing a bag. She stood in the doorway. You don't have to leave tonight, she said. I know, I said. But I'm going to. I grabbed what I needed for a few days. The rest could wait. At the door, I turned around one last time. I hope you find what you're looking for, Kendra. I mean that. She opened her mouth to say something. I closed the door before she got there. Marcus let me crash at his place in Harlem. He didn't ask a lot of questions that first night. Just handed me a beer, put on whatever game was on, and sat next to me on the couch in silence. That's the thing about the right people. They know when to talk and when to just be there. About an hour in, he said, You good? No, I said. You gonna be? I thought about it for a second. Yeah, I said. Eventually. He nodded. Take whatever time you need, he said. Room's yours. The first 2 weeks were the hardest. Not because I was falling apart. More because I wasn't, and that felt strange. I expected rage. Expected to lie awake replaying every conversation, looking for the moment I could have done something different. Expected to text her at 2 a.m. saying all the things I'd held back. None of that happened. What happened instead was quieter and harder to explain. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. and there was nothing to do. No one to check on. No routines built around another person. Just me. And that silence was deafening for about 10 days. Then, slowly, it started to feel like something else. Space. I started going back to the gym. Not aggressively. Not with some mission to transform myself for revenge. Just because I used to go before we moved in together and I'd let it slip. I started cooking for myself. Actual meals. Not just something fast because we had plans. I called my mom more. I picked up a book I'd been meaning to read for 2 years and actually read it. Small things, but they added up. I deleted our photos from my phone one evening in the 3rd week. Not in a dramatic moment. Not while some song was playing. Just sat on the floor of Marcus's guest room one Tuesday night and scrolled through the camera roll and slowly, photo by photo, let it go. I didn't delete them in anger. I deleted them because I knew if I kept them there I'd check them. And checking them would mean I was still looking backward. And backward was the only direction where none of this worked out for me. So I deleted them, closed the app, made a cup of tea, went to sleep. I moved into my own place in late October. A 1-bedroom in Washington Heights. Not glamorous, but mine. No shared lease. No compromise on furniture or wall art. The first morning there, I made coffee, stood at the window, and watched the city wake up below me. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel broken. I just felt like someone standing at the beginning of something. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of that. Work became everything for a while. Not as an escape. That's not the right word. More like a channel. I poured energy into it the way you pour water into something that holds its shape. Steady. Intentional. The startup had been moving, but now I was really moving inside it. I redesigned a core product flow that had been a friction point for 6 months. The numbers responded immediately. Conversion rate up almost 40%. The CEO mentioned it in an all hands. I started staying later, not to grind pointlessly, but because I actually cared again. When you're in a relationship that's slowly draining you, you don't realize how much energy is going toward maintaining it until that drain is gone. My team noticed. Derek, the senior engineer I worked most closely with, pulled me aside one afternoon. "I don't know what changed," he said, "but you've been on a different level the last month." I shrugged. Just focused. Keep it. I did. By December, the VP conversation wasn't a rumor anymore. My name was on a short list. 3 people. They were interviewing internally before the new year. I didn't tell anyone except Marcus. And Raymond. Raymond was 54. Chief Product Officer at a company that had been acquired twice and gone public once. He'd been mentoring me informally for almost 2 years. We'd met through a design conference, stayed in touch, started doing lunch every few weeks. He was the kind of man who'd seen enough to stop being impressed by most things. Calm in a way that felt like it had been earned, not performed. When I told him what happened with Kendra, he didn't react much. He just nodded slowly. "How are you handling it?" he asked. "Better than I expected," I said. "That's usually how it works," he said. "The things we dread destroy us less than we think they will. It's the anticipation that kills you, not the landing." I thought about that for a second. "She said I was too predictable," I said. "Too stable. Not exciting enough." Raymond tilted his head slightly. "And what did you think when she said it?" I thought she was confused about the difference between comfort and boredom. He smiled just barely. "You're not wrong," he said. "Some people mistake being cared for consistently as being taken for granted. They don't realize what they have until the consistency stops." "She'll figure it out," I said. "Probably," he said. "The question is whether it matters to you by then." I didn't answer that right away, but I already knew. It wouldn't. I heard about the new guy through mutual friends. His name was Dorian. Instagram profile full of rooftop parties, international trips, and vague entrepreneurship. Nice looking, loud energy. The kind of presence Kendra had been describing in that darkened bedroom 3 months earlier. Alicia, a friend we'd shared, someone who'd known us both since before the relationship, texted me about it carefully. "I just wanted you to know before you saw it somewhere. They've been posting." I read the message, put my phone down, went back to the wireframes I was working on, and finished what I was doing. Then I texted her back. "Thanks for letting me know. I'm good. 3 dots. Then, you sure?" "Yeah," I sent back. "I'm sure." And I was. What I didn't know, and what Alicia told me later in pieces, was what that relationship looked like from the inside. Dorian was exciting the way a storm is exciting. Thrilling until it turns, and then it's just damage. He canceled plans constantly. Said the right things in public, different things in private. Was generous when other people were watching and distant when they weren't. Kendra posted them constantly. Every trip, every restaurant, every rooftop moment. The comments were full of hard eyes. The reality, according to Alicia, was a lot quieter. She had started texting Alicia more. Late at night. Small things at first. Then bigger things. He'd said something that didn't sit right. He'd been cold after a certain trip. She didn't know where they stood. The same uncertainty she'd accused me of never giving her. She was drowning in it with someone else. I felt something when I heard that. Not satisfaction. Not really. Just a deep, settled recognition. Some lessons cost exactly what they cost. In January, we got the funding. Series B, closed clean. The number didn't go public, but internally, we knew what it meant. Resources, growth, headcount. And in the second week of January, they offered me the VP of product role. I sat in the CEO's office on a Thursday afternoon and listened to the offer and the title and the equity package, and I felt very calm about all of it. Not unmoved. Calm. I accepted. Shook hands. Walked back to my desk. Texted Marcus, VP. Series B closed. Buy you dinner. His response came back in about 4 seconds. Let's go. You're paying. I laughed for the first time in a while. Spring came. The city shifted the way New York shifts in March and April, like the whole place exhales after surviving winter. People moving differently. That particular Manhattan energy where everyone seems like they're going somewhere they actually want to be. I was going somewhere I actually wanted to be. The team was growing. We launched a redesigned onboarding experience that got written up in a product design newsletter with about 80,000 subscribers. My name was in the piece. Not prominently. Just there. Enough to be seen. Her name was Simone. She worked in architecture. Had the kind of intelligence that came out sideways, not announcing itself, just quietly making every conversation more interesting. We met at a dinner party at Raymond's Brownstone in Brooklyn in late February. One of those evenings where 8 people end up talking for 4 hours without looking at their phones. She was sitting across from me when Raymond told a story about a product failure that had almost bankrupted his first company, and she said, without missing a beat, the best design comes from understanding exactly what people are trying to avoid, not what they claim they want. I stopped, looked at her. That's exactly right, I said. She looked back. I know, she said. Raymond caught my eye across the table and said absolutely nothing. Simone and I talked for 2 hours after the dinner officially ended, standing in Raymond's kitchen while the others filtered out. Not aggressively, not like a chase. Just 2 people who found the other one genuinely interesting and weren't in a hurry to stop. I asked for her number at the door. She gave it to me without hesitation. We moved slowly, deliberately, which was, I realized, exactly what I'd needed to do differently. Not because the pace itself was the lesson, but because I understood myself better now. What I wanted, what I wouldn't accept, what kind of woman was worth standing still for. Simone was direct. She said what she meant. She didn't play games with attention or test me with silence. When something bothered her, she said it. When she was happy, she showed it. She called consistency a feature, not a flaw. I remember the night she said that. We were walking through Riverside Park in early April, and I'd told her, just honestly, not as a story I was performing, about what Kendra had said. The too loyal, too available, too easy to predict line. Simone listened without interrupting. Then she said, consistency is only boring to people who've never had to live without it. I didn't say anything, just reached over and took her hand. By July, Simone was a constant. Not in a smothering way. In the right way. The way where her presence in my apartment felt like it belonged there. The way where Sunday mornings had started meaning something again. One evening in late July, we were sitting on the floor of my apartment going through a book of architectural prints she'd brought over, and I looked at her, just for a second, and thought, this is the one. Not out of desperation. Not as a rebound. Just the quiet, certain way you know something true. I proposed in September. Not with a production. Not with a photographer hidden in a bush and a restaurant full of waiting strangers. We were in Central Park on a Saturday morning. The light was doing that thing it does in early fall, where everything looks like it's just slightly more itself. She was laughing at something I'd said. I can't even remember what, and I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the box, and she stopped laughing and looked at me. Simone, I said. She put her hand over her mouth. I know who I am now, I said, and I know who I want next to me. It's you. It's always going to be you. She said yes before I finished the sentence. Marcus was the one who suggested posting about it. You need to put this on Instagram, he said, the following week. Not for anyone. Just because you're happy and you should be allowed to be loud about it. Simone agreed. She'd always been selective about social media. Not performative, just genuine. This, she said, was worth sharing. We posted the engagement photos on a Wednesday evening. I didn't think much about it. Just photos from the park. A few lines. Her hand with the ring. Within about 4 hours, the mutual friends had started commenting. People I'd worked with. People from the industry. Old college friends. By the next morning, the post had been shared a few dozen times. Not viral, but moving in that organic way where the warmth feels real because it is real. Alicia texted me around noon. I'm so happy for you. Truly. Then a pause. Then, Kendra saw it. I put my phone face down on my desk, sat with that information for about 30 seconds, then turned the phone back over and went back to work. Here's what Alicia told me over the following weeks. Not at once. In pieces, the way things always come out. Kendra had seen the engagement post on a Thursday morning through a mutual connections share. She'd watched the comments come in, watched the names, people who'd been her friends too, people who'd been to our shared dinners and birthday gatherings, showing up to celebrate something that didn't include her. That evening, she posted a video. I never watched it, but Alicia described it. It was Kendra at home, low lighting, soft voice. She wasn't saying my name. She wasn't specific, but she was talking about losing someone genuinely loving, about how she'd mistaken security for smallness, about how some men, certain kinds of men, she said, were rare and she hadn't understood that until it was too late. The comments were full of women relating to it. The following week, she posted another one. Similar energy, more views than usual. Then another. A whole series, essentially, about the grief of recognizing your own mistake. People connected with it. I understood that. The feeling she was describing was real, even if the timing was ironic. But I never commented, never responded, never acknowledged it publicly or privately. Alicia asked me once if I'd watched any of it. No, I said. Why not? Because it wouldn't change anything, I said. And I didn't want to go looking for something that wasn't for me anymore. She was quiet on the other end of the line. She misses you, she finally said. I know, I said. Does that? Alicia, I said gently. Yeah. I'm engaged to someone who doesn't think I'm too predictable. A pause. Then Alicia laughed quietly. Fair enough, she said. What I understood later, and it took time to see it clearly, was that Kendra's dissatisfaction had been building long before she said it out loud. It had started somewhere around year 3. When her friend group had started escalating, bigger apartments, louder partners, more presence online, more visible status. When Danielle had started posting from the Hamptons every weekend and talking about her boyfriend's portfolio like it was a personality. When the world Kendra moved through professionally had started rewarding a specific kind of projection, and she'd started measuring everything, including me, by that same projection. I wasn't loud enough. I wasn't performing enough. I was building something real, but it didn't photograph well. And somewhere in that comparison, a man who cooked her dinner and held her hand in hospital waiting rooms and never once made her feel like she had to earn his love had become not enough. Not because I wasn't enough, because she had started measuring worth in a currency I wasn't spending. The new guy, Dorian, the one with the rooftop presence and the Instagram energy, he spoke that currency fluently. And she had chased the sound of it all the way to a relationship that, from what Alicia described, had left her more lonely than the stability she'd walked away from. There was one final moment. 3 weeks after the engagement post. I was at a cafe near the office on a Tuesday morning, laptop open, headphones around my neck, waiting for an Americano. I heard my name. I looked up. Kendra was standing 4 feet away. She looked good. She always looked good. That hadn't changed. But there was something in her face, a tiredness underneath the surface, that I recognized. Hey, she said. Hey, I said. A beat. I saw your news, she said. Congratulations. Thank you, I said. Neither of us moved for a moment. She had a coffee cup in her hand. Her eyes were doing that thing where someone is trying to figure out what expression to use. Whether to go to the version that's casual or the version that's honest. She seems great, Kendra said. She is, I said. Another beat. You seem good, she said. Really good. I am, I said. And I meant it with zero performance. No subtle twist of a knife. No slight smile that said, see what you lost. Just a man standing at a coffee counter telling someone the simple truth. I am good. She nodded slowly. Then, I've been thinking a lot about. Kendra, I said very gently. She stopped. I looked at her. I genuinely hope you're doing well, I said. And I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. She blinked. But I'm not the right person to have this conversation with anymore. The barista called my name. I picked up the cup, smiled at her. Not warmly, not coldly, just honestly. and walked back to my table. She stood there for a second. Then she walked out. I put my headphones on, opened my laptop, and got back to work. She sent a message that night. I saw the notification at 11:47 p.m. I didn't open it. Not out of cruelty. Not as a power move. I just had nothing left to give to that conversation. No anger to release. No hurt to process. No wound that needed her to witness it. I put my phone on the nightstand. Looked over at Simone asleep next to me. Turned the light off. Some people only recognize peace after they've already burned it down. By the time she realized what I was already someone else's. By the time she posted those videos about missing genuine love, I was already home. Her last message stayed unopened, and I never lost a minute of sleep over it.